Hi, I'm Rocco Staino, and we're here at KidLit TV with the Spring 2020 Showcase from publisher Spotlight. Thank you, Ellen, Myrick, for being here and bringing all these books. How many books do we have today?
We have more than 50 books from more than 20 publishers.
20 publishers, 50
Yeah.
books. Oh.
Yeah.
And someone in our viewing audience can actually own all 50 of these books.
Yeah, it's a true thing. So if you comment below, then you will be entered into a drawing to win the entire collection, the 50-book collection, as soon as they're all finished. Some of these are not fully baked yet, but most of them are.
Right. So they just have to comment. And if people also like to tag us on social media saying, hey, that Rocco and Ellen, what a pair they are. Yes, they can tag it. Pub Spotlight Spring 2020. That's again, hashtag Pub Spotlight Spring 2020.
All right, should we get started?
I think we should.
Let's do it. Okay, first up we have Peachtree Publishing Company out of Atlanta. And I mean, some of you do the early kid, the really young story times. It's hard to find books. The work for really young children. Hat Tricks is here to save you. So this is by Satoshi Kitamura, and he is a very celebrated illustrator out of the UK. And of course, everyone knows that there is a rabbit in the hat, but in this case, the rabbit in the hat is the magician, and her name is Hattie. And she can pull things out of your hat, the like of which you've never seen. So she pulls out, well, some of the usual things. So let me skip ahead a little bit because we want to get to exciting things like an octopus.
Oh my.
Oh my goodness. Have you ever pulled out, which arm would you grab? I don't know. She pulls that out, a moose, and uh-oh, what is that? Anyone have any guesses on what that could be coming out of there? Looks kind of like an elephant's trunk to me.
No, that's a real trick.
It's a real trick. So here we are pulling the elephant out of the hat. It's not in the room. It is in the room. It's almost in the room. And it gets stuck. So everyone hopes to pull it out, but there's still one more thing that has to come out of this hat, and that is, wow, it's a whole new place with a whole new family and friends. It's a whole new world full of friends, and that is from Hat Tricks from Satoshi Kitamura. So you have another Peachtree book for us.
I do, yes. And you know, I know it's hard to believe, but there was a time in my career that I used to do story time with first and second graders, and
that was fun.
It was fun, and you know I missed that. And when I read the Society of Distinguished Lemmings, I said this would be a great story time for first and second graders. And first of all, you get to tell them what a lemming is. And a lemming, as you may or may not know, is a rodent. And these group of very distinguished rodents form a society. And they're little, I would say, kind of pompous. Yes. Pompous lemmings, yes. And one of their lemmings, Birdie, decides that he just wanted to get away, and he leaves all his lemming friends, and he goes out and he finds a creature that he never met before, a bear, and they strike it. You know, they strike it off, and they become friends, and they do things together, like they paint, and they play chess.
Cool.
And Birdie wants the bear to become part of the Society of Lemmings. But they don't think the bear is distinguished enough to be part of such a distinguished society. But, you know, the bear does. You know, lemmings, as you may know, kind of follow each other, and they go off and they get into trouble. You know, they went into the water and they needed someone to help save them. And Bear does save them. There are many, many spreads here that have the lemmings saying things like, "Giddy up," or My pores are so pruny. This is when they're out in the... so what would be fun is to put these little phrases on cards, pass them out to your friends at story time. And when you get to that particular spread, they can all become part of the story. So this is the Society of Distinguished Lemmings, and that they are very distinguished.
We have a lot of books about belonging and people wanting to belong on today's list.
Right.
And another one of those is Keith Among the Pigeons by Child's Play. And this is written and illustrated by Katie Brosnan. Now remember that name because we're going to come up with it again later. Keith is a cat, but as you can see, he really feels more at home with the pigeons. And the pigeons have a complicated history with cats, and they're not sure how they feel about this. But Keith does not give up. And he figures out a way to make them think that he's one of them. So he finds a lot of feathers, and then he glues them all over his body. Yeah, that'll fool him, right? Yeah, until there's a rainstorm, and it all washes off, and poor Keith, they're onto him. They know he's a cat, and they fly away, and he's sad because he really just likes hanging out with the pigeons. You can see how they fly away. There's so much energy in these illustrations, right? Just so much fun to share aloud, share with kids. And then he tries to be a proper cat, but nothing about being a proper cat feels right to him. So eventually, he and the pigeons come to terms, and they realize that he is one of them. It's okay, Keith. We always knew you were different. You're not really a cat. You're just Keith. And that is Keith Among the Pigeons. So also from Child's Play.
Oh, yes, from Child's Play.
Yeah.
Milo and Monty. Two dogs that, when you look at the cover, you say, hey, they look very similar, but Milo and Monty don't act similar. Yes, Monty is a dog that just loves to get involved with the family and cuddle and be active, while Milo is a very shy, timid dog, very jittery, as I would say, and really doesn't like to interact. And so his family doesn't really know how to handle Milo until one day they had a visit from their cousin. And the cousin's name, I believe, is Henry, yes. Yeah. And so, but Henry, just like Milo, doesn't like to interact. He finds a safe place to sit under the desk. And Milo also joins Henry. And after the visit, the family understands that Milo is similar to Henry, that he likes to, he's a little shy, and he might be on the spectrum type of, and they learn to handle Milo. So it is a story of, although people look alike, they don't always act alike.
That's
yes.
So true.
Yes. So, yeah, Milo and Monty, a great story.
Yes. And next up, we have a couple of books from Magnetic Press. Now, sorry for the studio audience, you don't see the book that's right here, but it is called, yes, it's very mysterious, but we're talking about pets with Milo and Monty, and this is Gen Pet. So the really cool thing about Gen Pet is that in 2036, this is, of course, fiction, kids are going to be able to, rich kids, I should say it's rich kids, are going to be able to design their own pets to their own specifications. So they can make it do the things they want to do, have the attributes they really want. So this kid named Nat gets a Gen Pet, and he's really excited about Nico, but what he doesn't know is that his father has added something to the list of things he wanted in his pet, and that is that this pet will always make sure that he is protected from danger. So think of it as kind of Jetsons meets Lassie. Timmy's in the well. Oh no, he's not. Anyway, but with some really fun science fiction-y things thrown in. Really, really fun new book from Magnetic Press. Magnetic Press is a small publisher. It's been around since I think 2014, and they do a lot of books from around the world. So you'll also see some great international titles for them. Another one they have coming up that is really super fun and has Milo in the name. There's a thing about Milos today. So Milo's World, and isn't this gorgeous? So this has kind of an anime feel to it, and this is one of two. There are two in the series so far. So really, really gorgeous, really gorgeous adventure stories. And Milo is a kid who's left by himself a lot. His mom has never been around. His dad is always traveling. He's got 3 strange aunts who make sure he gets enough to eat. But they let him wander to this mysterious lake. And one day, Milo's out there and he finds this glowing object. He pulls it up and it's this fish egg. But it's big and it's glowing and it's golden, and he takes it back home and, of course, keeping it in water, and watches it hatch. And it turns out to be this really oversized goldfish that seems to have some magical attributes. Well, he and a new friend take this magical fish, goldfish, to the water to get it back where it can breathe, and it pulls them into another world where they are the ones with the power. So the war is having the new world is having a civil war, and there's an evil sorcerer, and it turns out that this is where Milo's mother has been all along, as she's been there to balance the power so that the evil sorcerer doesn't win out. So the first one is The Land Underwater, and the second one is The Black Queen, where they have to find this wicked black queen and defeat her. And I just have to show you some of the art because, again, it is just so stunning. And kids who appreciate that will really really get into this. So that's Milo's World. You have some more anime, yeah.
Yes, and from Magnetic Press
yes.
also. And it's called The Ballad of Yaya. And it's a series set in Shanghai in 1937. And I believe there are right now 5 books in the series.
I think there's 6.
6, okay, but
yeah.
I have a few right here. And so just to talk about book 4, The Ballad of Yaya. So they are escaping Yaya and to Duyo, yes. They're running away from the wicked gangster, and boy, when you look at that gangster, he is a wicked wicked fellow. And they end up finding themselves on a secluded island, and will they be able to survive? And will they ever, find their parents in Hong Kong? So it is a great. I love the format of the book.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think
Kid-sized.
Kid-sized, kids' hands. They'll enjoy it. Yes.
But we can't forget Mr. Invincible.
Oh, Mr. Invincible, and he's right here, here.
Yes, he's right here.
Right here.
So Mr.
Right,
Invincible,
yes,
I think we got back to that. I hope that worked.
Yes.
So
yes, yeah, no, but he's a superhero in a comic strip, and he is my type of superhero. First of all, the book is filled with various comic strips, so they're kind of standalone stories. But Mr. Invincible is able to do something that I haven't seen anyone in a comic be able to do.
What is that?
He is able to go from one frame to the other. He's in one frame and he reaches down to the other frame, either to get an object or to see someone, etc. So he's able to go into the future and into the past, and so
onto the page.
Time and space mean nothing to Mr. Invincible, and it is a fun book because, as I said, they're all comic strips, so there's 6 panels, maybe in each, 6 to 8 panels, and so it's easily read, and you can put it down and pick it up anytime you want.
And he still does all the usual superhero things.
He has a cape.
Fighting evil, and
Yes.
he's got the cape. cape
Yes.
and tights. But he
Yes.
also, fights the bad guys and
Right.
wants to win the day for good and all that stuff. So it's a lot of adventure, but also it's got a very sly sense of humor.
It
and
does.
It's really fun.
It's fun
Kind of
book.
meta, very
Yes.
meta. So if you want a metaphysical comic strip superhero
For
for
those
middle-aged kids.
that come in and go, can you
Mr.
give me
Invincible's for you.
a metaphysical
Yeah,
book?
yeah.
I feel like one today.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we're there. Yeah. So next up from Floris Books. Floris is a publisher based in Scotland. And this is from, this is Little Pearl, and this is the same team that did The House of Lost and Found, which is just a luminous, gorgeous book that came out last year and was named an Outstanding International Book of the Year 2 years ago. And this is by the same team. It's a Swedish writer and a Polish illustrator, and it's a story of Grace. And Grace is telling her story to her son, who wonders about the mysterious ring on her finger and the pearl that glows. So yes, we have another glowing object to talk about. And she tells a story of when she was a child and her brother went missing. And he played his flute and she loved the flute playing all the time and she missed him so dreadfully. She wanted to go find him. So one day she goes out into the neighborhood, into the wilderness behind, and she's sledding down the hill and she ends up in this hole where she discovers this whole other place where she is the size of insects. So it's got that kind of Alice in Wonderland feel to it, mysterious and really strange creatures who dress in odd ways, but I mean, obviously, doesn't he look like he's straight from Alice in Wonderland?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're going to meet a cockroach, this is the one to meet. So, and they have adventures in the water, but then one day she meets an evil crab.
Evil crab.
Evil crab who captures children and makes them go down into the deep water to find pearls, harvest pearls from sharp clams or oysters, I don't know, whichever, from sharp crustaceans. And she has to pry open their mouths and grab the pearls and bring them up. And she does that, and then she discovers that he has captured other children to do his bidding. And of course, being the gutsy little empowered girl she is, she just figures out a way to outwit him and win back to her way to freedom and discover her brother in the process. So, aww, isn't that beautiful? So, and in the end, of course, that is the story of how she got the pearl that is in her ring. So, Little Pearl from Floris Books.
I have another book from
You
Floris
do?
too, and it's called Wake Up, Let's Play, and it's a board book.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And,
Yeah, sturdy.
Yeah, a very sturdy book, and with great, vivid illustrations. Wake up, let's play. What shall we play today? And so you can open it up almost anywhere. And it goes, let's play birthday parties. Let's play stormy seas. My favorite, let's play restaurants.
Did you do that when you were a kid? Did you play restaurant?
Yes, I always
can
said, can
see you.
we go out for dinner? I always would say.
Want to wear your bow tie?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yes, but anyway, it shows it kind of encourages children to be creative and imaginative. And as I said, very sturdy.
Very, very sturdy.
Yes, yes.
And one thing I love about these books is Floris does these books that really celebrate imaginative play.
Right.
They also publish a lot of books for Waldorf schools.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are into the Waldorf education system, then you should know that this is a great go-to publisher for you. But you've got some other books about exploring the world around you.
I do, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I am going to, are they from Tiger Tales?
They're Tiger Tales. Yes, they are.
Yeah, yes. And they are, what I say, they're almost field guides for young people. And I'm going to start with this one because your book had a villainous crab, but Explore the Shore has pop-ups over here, and it has, it's a great book to bring out when you go on a field trip, or a trip out to the seashore, and we have sea jellies and incredible crabs, and you have these great pop-outs that have some information that you can use. So this is for the visiting the shore, and this one here is for visiting the meadow. And here we have frogs and, again, information about various creatures and insects, ants. So, yeah, so a starter field guide. Yes.
It's a starter field guide, and if you'd like to win this and all the other books that we're talking about...
How can you do that? You tell me.
I will tell you,
Yes.
Rocco, but you can't win.
Okay.
Okay, because you're talking right now, so you can't comment.
Okay, yes.
But everyone out there can comment, so just comment below, and you will be entered into a drawing to win all the books we're talking about, including Little Turtle and the Changing Sea. Now, this is also from Tiger Tales, and something I just love about this book is sometimes when you're talking about environmental crises, it can get a little overwhelming for kids because how can they make a difference in the world? Well, through this little turtle who's discovering how the sea is changing around him, you can understand some ways that you can make a difference yourself. So it isn't overburdening to a child, but it does give them some real tools. So it also is beautifully illustrated. So you can see the plastic floating in the ocean, and you can see the kids down there helping, the divers, not skydivers, that'd be a different book, wouldn't it? Yes, it would. And great back matter, because I don't know about you, but I am a sucker for some good back matter. So these are some real ways that kids can make a difference, and I think it can be shared with anyone who wants to celebrate 50 years of Earth Day.
Right.
But really, shouldn't we be doing that every day, celebrating the Earth and the ocean?
Right.
That's on the Earth, every single day. Yep. So I have one more thing I want to talk about before you go over to space, and that is Jasper. Jasper and Scruff. So do you remember how Keith wanted to belong to a party, and the bear wanted to belong to the society? Mm-hmm. Well, this is another book. This is another series about belonging. Jasper is the cat in this case, and he is not trying to become a pigeon. He is every bit as distinguished as those lemmings we learned about earlier, and he and his fellow cats have quite the club. And Scruff, as you can see here, is not really that put together when it comes to his wardrobe and his overall way. I don't know if he's ever taken a bath. It doesn't really say that in the book. It doesn't look like it from here. But anyway, Scruff really, really wants to become a member of Jasper's Special Society. And this is an illustrated chapter book. And I don't know about you guys, but kids love these. Really fun illustrations. It's perfect for those kids who are just a little bit older from picture books, may not want to be seen reading the picture books, but they love the illustrations still. Well, there's a lot to enjoy in Jasper and Scruff. And this series already has 4 in the series, and there are a couple of other ones that Tiger Tales has come out with in the last season or 2. So if you're looking for good illustrated chapter book series, Tiger Tales is a great go-to. Now, will you tell us about your book?
Well, you mentioned 50th anniversary. It's the 50th anniversary. We just had the 50th anniversary of the moon landing.
Yes, we did.
Yes,
yeah.
And so Elizabeth Jenner and 360 Degree did a great job in this book called In Focus Space. And the fun thing about this book, it was illustrated by 10 different illustrators.
Cool.
Yes, and so it gives you a wealth of information, and starting from the very beginning. Let's start at the very beginning, and with the Big Bang. And so it does. Oh yes, thank you.
Here we go.
Yeah. So it gives us information, but it is presented in a very simple way. It's not a lot of run-on text, right? And so it will go and it'll show us the solar system, and as we go, you can see the difference in the illustrations here, and it goes all the way up to becoming an astronaut.
Nice.
And of course, the moon landing.
Well, yeah, naturally.
There you go. Yes, so
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes, a great fun book that you could go back to again and again.
And that's space, but you also have another book that has something about stars, because that's the other theme today, are stars.
Yes.
So from Nube Ocho.
Yeah, yes. And it's called A Wave of Stars. And Nube Ocho, they have their books both in English and in Spanish. Mm-hmm. And the Spanish is what type of Spanish?
Well, it's American Spanish as opposed to Castilian Spanish. So when they have books that come out in this country, know that it's done in the way that is going to be most accessible to your students, to your readers.
Yeah, so we have some sea creatures, I think. A turtle and a a seal, and they are told of a legend that if you see a moonbow, I guess that's the old octopus who tells them that if you see a moonbow, you will change into a human. And lo and behold, they see, I'm looking for the moonbow, right there. They see a moonbow. And you told me a moonbow is caused by moonlight?
Yeah, it's moonlight. It's like a full moon, and you know how sometimes it's almost as bright as day?
And there you go. And lo and behold, they do change into children, and they must rush to the top because they cannot breathe, and they swim to the shore. And luckily, they meet a fisherman. And I love these illustrations.
It's by Sonia Wimmer, who also did Truly Brave Princesses.
Yes. And he takes them home and cares for them. They want to eat fish.
Well, of course.
Of course.
Yes.
They have that, yes. And he takes care of them. But they want to go back to the sea. And that's why you need a wave of stars.
That's because they have to dive into the wave of stars.
Right. And so he takes them out, and they go and they look into the sky, and there is the wave of stars, and they return to the sea. But they do get to somewhere. I know, see their friend, the fisherman.
Yeah.
Again.
Yep. I think it's a little bit further back. There you go.
There we go, yes.
Yes.
Yes, so a very sweet book.
That's a wave of stars.
A wave of stars, yes.
So another book from Nube Ocho, who is based in Spain, as a matter of fact, is Federico and All His Families, or in Spanish, Federico y sus familias. So we all know that cat that sleeps around the neighborhood, right? And gets fed at everybody's house. So Federico is that cat. The thing about Federico, though, is that he lives in the most diverse neighborhood you could ever hope for. So in one house, it may be two moms, and another one may be two dads. It may be an interracial couple, just adoptive kids. It's just every different kind of family you can imagine. So it's a great way to communicate diversity and inclusion in a board book that is about this really friendly cat. And that is Federico and All His Families. And again, it's a board book. Do you want to knock on it to show how sturdy it is? Sturdy.
Yes.
Really, really sturdy. Okay, and our next book that we're going to talk about
you're talking
I'm talking about it because do you want to sing, Rocco?
No. You
okay.
can, yes.
I mean, if you want to, I am game.
No, you sing, please.
So this is The More We Get Together from Barefoot Books. And we all do those story times where you have to sing, you know, and I know you guys know this song, but you know what, the words are not the same, so you're off the hook. So it does have the words we know, but I have to get back to one. This one has a slightly environmental twist. So let's bicycle together, enjoying the weather. Let's bicycle together and breathe easily. The air will be cleaner, the grass will be greener. Let's bicycle together and breathe easily. 'Cause your air is my air and my air is your air. The more we ride together, the healthier we'll be. So that... Yeah, later. Anyway, they actually do have the music for this. You don't have to rely on me or figuring out yourself, so you can find this online on the Barefoot Books website. But this is just one of the many, many books that have songs and audios that go along with them from Barefoot Books. So check it out. And you have a Barefoot book with you.
I do, and one of the things that I enjoy about the Publisher Spotlight previews is because the publishers are from around the world, they give you an insight into different cultures. And so I want to thank you and all your publishers for sharing those cultures. And this book, From My Window, takes place in Brazil, and is it favela? Favela. Does anybody in the audience know what favela is? It's a Brazilian neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yes,
Favela.
and so this the author and the illustrator show us.
And they are own voices,
Yes,
so they are
yes,
Brazilian.
Yes, and so they take us into the neighborhood here. And you know, from my window, I talk to my friends, talking that starts a game. And then you see the interaction in the people in the community, people who dream of scoring an incredible goal at the packed stadium. And then people who have to, after a strong rain in the neighborhood, have to go back and patch the roofs because of all the leaks. And then you see people going off to school. At the end, they see this one is great because it's the illustration and the spread is so active, and there's so many different things happening in the neighborhood. So it gives you an insight into Rio de Janeiro.
Yes.
Yes.
And
yes.
that is from Barefoot Books.
Barefoot Books.
And
yes.
next we have a book from Tiny Owl Books. So Tiny Owl is based in the UK, and it was started by Delaram Gunifard and her husband, and they were journalists in Tehran. So a lot of the books they do feature the art and the stories of people in the Middle East. But this one is one that is a little bit further away from that. This is actually an Indian story. And this is deep in the jungle. There's a friendship between Miss Bandari, who is a very beautiful and friendly and sweet monkey who lives in a tree. And her best friend, who is a crocodile, lives underneath the tree, named Mr. Magramarch. Now, the king crocodile has heard about Miss Bandari in this great plum tree and knows that she must have a golden heart that would be so sweet to eat. He really can almost taste that wonderful heart. So he tries to make Mr. Megamarch bring his best friend so that he can eat her. Now, he does not want to do that. So thanks to a very wise elephant, he's able to figure out a way that they are all able to figure out a way to save his friend. But I think the illustrations in here are just gorgeous, and I want to show you one of my favorites. But isn't that cool? Just, the thrashing around in the water, you can almost hear the tail flailing about. And then in the end, of course, everybody makes it, and Mr. Magamarch and Miss Bandari live with the great plum tree, and she feeds him plums so that he will never be hungry. And that is Under the Great Plum Tree from Tiny Owl Books. And you have another book.
Tiny Owl book. It's called Felix After the Rain. And, this is a very good book for a bibliotherapy, I would think.
Bibliotherapy, for sure,
yes,
yeah.
Yes, because I'm just going to read the first 2 pages. And it says, Felix was a terribly unhappy boy. He dragged an enormous suitcase behind him wherever he went, but he didn't know what was inside. Something dark had appeared in the suitcase when Grandma died. Something hurtful had hidden inside when his friends made fun of him. Something bothersome had burrowed its way in when his dad told him off. The suitcase became heavier and heavier. Felix could barely manage to push it along. But
what happens next?
He does open the suitcase, and he lets all those feelings out. We jump to the end. I mean, yes. And
more happens in the middle.
Yes, more happens, with the baggage. Yes.
I think there's a rainstorm.
Yes.
After the rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a rainstorm.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Felix, as you could see, after the rainstorm, and when he lets everything out of the suitcase, he becomes a new person. So
he's free.
He's free. Yes. So it's Felix After the Rain.
So here's a little story, a backstory of this. Originally, the title was Felix and His Suitcase, and the cover was so depressing. So we decided to focus on the end of the story rather than the beginning of the story, so people would know that we got to that point where Felix was again happy. And his name is Felix.
Right.
And we know what that means, right? Happy. So there you have it. And would you like to tell us about our next book, which is from Tilbury House?
Oh, Tilbury House. Yes.
In Maine.
Yes. The Immigrant Architect. Raphael Gustafino, the American Dream. And it's a story of Gustafino who comes to the United States. He is an architect in Spain, and he developed a type of architecture using tiles, and it was interlocking tiles on with vaulted ceilings. And he and his son, it was right around the time they were building the Brooklyn Bridge when he came here, but he and his son began a business here in the United States, and here he is trying to explain his theory of the interlocking.
You need at least 4 hands for that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And here's an illustration of one, because it was similar to, he was in the bakery, because it was similar to a baking oven.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I enjoyed this book because there are so many of examples of Gustafino's work here in New York City, but the very first place, and you can still see it, is in Boston at the Boston Public Library.
Right.
Yes, with the interlocking tile. And here in New York City, if you go to Grand Central Terminal and you go down by the Oyster Bar, you'll see some of, and the whole Oyster Bar are all the interlocking tiles. And if you go right outside the Oyster Bar, his architecture, of course, is that whispering gallery where you can stand and hear the whispers across the room. But again, it's all over the country. The Elephant House at the Bronx Zoo, but I'm just saying the New York, but there are other places. Nebraska.
4,000, yeah.
Yeah.
In Nebraska, the state capital of Nebraska, he considered to be his pièce de résistance, his most amazing work. So, road trip to Nebraska, let us know if you're in. Comment if you are up for a trip to Nebraska to see that, and you may win all the books too.
Or comment your favorite example of Gustafino's work. And you know, you and I are going to see his work on March 2nd.
We are.
Yes, we're going to the Audis.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's at a place here in New York City called Gustafino's. It's an event space.
Named for him.
Named for him because it's underneath the Queensboro Bridge. And he even made the bottom of the bridge beautiful. And now they made that in.
That's commitment.
Yes, that's a
commitment.
great time. Can't wait to see who the winners are.
Yes. And we have one more book from Tilbury House, and this is another immigrant story. This is called The Arabic Quilt. So many children have this experience. They go to school, they learn English faster than their parents. I've seen this happen a lot where I am in Nashville. And they go in, and this child goes to school, her mother says goodbye to her in Arabic, and her food isn't like everybody else's, and the kids tease her. And this is the case where a really smart teacher finds a way to take the thing that makes her different and celebrates it. So she suggests that the girl and her mother write everybody's name in Arabic, and then they stitch it all together and make it into a beautiful quilt. So it's celebration of everyone's name, but also of the language. And the beautiful thing is this is so easy to replicate. So they do this. I need to show some illustrations because we want to see that quilt. You see this? And then the cool thing is that other people in the school take that same idea and they can have their quilt, so they can do it in Korean or Hindustani or in any language. And this is a wonderful way to model acceptance and how to really make people feel welcome and included. And that is the Arabic Quilt from Tilbury House. And next up, I think you're going to tell us about...
I'm going to tell you about something.
Well, okay, I think I do this one first. Okay, hold that thought, Rocco. Thank you. Next up, we have All the Dear Little Animals, and this is from Gecko Press. So if you like the early chapter books, this is the dream team. So Ulf Nilsson did Detective Gordon. So you know those books, they got Star Reviews, Best of the Year list, and Eve Eriksson, who did the illustrations for My Happy Life, among other things. So this is about a trio of kids, and they find a dead bumblebee, which is actually a lot sadder now than it was when this book first came out in Sweden. But they find the bumblebee, and they have a moment about this dead bumblebee, and they decide to bury it with a lot of pomp and circumstance, and she's kind of in charge. And the little boy is a very good writer, so he writes the eulogies. And then the youngest one is the one who cries. because you need one of those at every funeral. So they do this, and they have the funeral for the little bumblebee, and I have to read you his beautiful little eulogy, because a dear little life in the hand, suddenly gone deep in the sand. Just makes you want to cry, doesn't it? So they discover that, you know what? The forest is full of dead things. We could do this all day. So they do. So they go and find all the dead animals, and they hold funerals for all of them, and then that's the end of that day, and the next day they do something different.
Right.
So that is all the dear little animals.
And
now,
it's a career book too?
That's later, Rocco.
Oh, that's right.
You're foreshadowing.
Yes, that's right.
So tell me about your next book.
Oh, I'll tell you about Tell Me. Tell Me is what children really want to know about bodies, sex, and emotions. And so what they actually went out and asked children to write on little pieces of paper, questions. And so they did that, and they answered those questions. Like, why do people kiss? And they have all types of kissing here. You know, they have a dad kissing the baby, and this gentleman kissing a lady's hand. And then they answer it. Why do people kiss? If you want to be very close to a person, kissing usually comes into it. Around the mouth and on the lips and skin is, around the mouth and on the lips, the skin is very thin with many nerve endings. This is one of the things I learned. I learned so much from this book, believe me. And
all ages. This is a program for all ages. Yes.
Making it sensitive to the touch. A kiss is a way to let someone know, someone feel your love and affection. So it goes on and very tasteful. And
but pretty, I mean, it asks, the kids ask lots of questions.
Lots of questions, and as I said, I did learn things. Yes, here, and so if you want to learn something, you're never too old to learn. So Tell Me is the book for you. Yes.
And who's ready for story time? People ready for story time? Let's do story time.
Yes.
Okay. This is also from Gecko, and this has been their bestseller in New Zealand for years and years and years. I'm so excited we finally have this here. This is Pooh Bum by Stephanie Blake. So we will do some Pooh Bum. Once there was a little rabbit who could say only one thing, Pooh Bum. There we go, Pooh Bum. Yeah. Every morning when his mother said, "Time to get up, my little rabbit," he would reply,
Pooh Bum.
At lunchtime, when his father said, "Eat your spinach, my little rabbit," he would reply,
Pooh Bum.
At night, when his big sister said, "Come and have your bath, my little rabbit," he would reply,
Pooh Bum.
One day a wolf asked him, "May I eat you, my little rabbit?" And he replied,
Pooh Bum.
And so the wolf ate the little rabbit. Oh, we'll stop there. No, okay, we'll keep going. When the wolf went home, his wife asked, "How are you, my dear?" And the wolf replied,
Pooh Bum.
Pooh Bum. That night, the wolf wasn't feeling well. He called the doctor. The doctor said, "Say ah." The wolf replied,
Pooh Bum.
The doctor cried, "What? You've eaten my little rabbit."
Uh-oh.
The very brave doctor went looking for his little rabbit. He pulled the little rabbit out and said, "Oh, my poor little Pooh Bum." The little rabbit was shocked. He exclaimed, "Good heavens, Father, how dare you call me that? You know perfectly well my name is Simon." Back at home, his mother said, "Eat your soup, my little rabbit." And he replied, "Of course, Mother, the flavor is exquisite." The next morning, when his father said, "Brush your teeth, my little rabbit," he replied, "Fart." And that is the end of Pooh Bum.
Okay.
So That's from Gecko Press. Gecko had a really good year last year because they had a book that was one of the winners of the New York Times, New York Public Library 10 Best Illustrated Books. And that was Monkey on the Run. And Cicada, who we're going to talk about in the second half, also had a book on that list called A Million Dots. So we're going to see a couple of minutes of interviews with the creators who came all the way from Germany and Belgium to attend that, along with the publishers from London and New Zealand.
Yes, that was a great evening. Yes, so you had a little dinner for them.
Had a little dinner because, you know, if you're going to bring people from all the way from across the world, you should do something for them.
Right, right.
Yes, so we're going to do that.
And then when we come back, we have Lonely Planet Books, and we have someone, Hannah.
We have Hanna Otero here, who is the publisher for Lonely Planet Kids books. So, yeah, talk about exploring the world.
We'll be exploring the world. So, take a look at the...
Comment.
Take a look at the video of the two illustrators. Yes.
Be back in a minute.
Yep. See you then. Hi, Rocco Staino here with a Publisher Spotlight exclusive. We're here in New York City with Leo Timmers. Welcome, Leo. You came all the way from?
Belgium, Brussels.
Yes, thank you for joining us here tonight. So tell me about when you create these illustrations, your process. How do you do that?
Well, it starts with lots of sketches to get everything, perfect. And then I work with acrylic, so I paint everything by hand.
It's not digital.
No,
it's not digital. You gotta be kidding me. This is not digital.
No, I don't use the computer for anything. So everything is done with paint and by hand with pencils. Yeah.
So you have all these illustrations in your studio back in Brussels.
Yeah, I have drawers with a lot of illustrations in them. Yeah, exactly.
I know many people that would love to own these.
Yeah, I know. I get requests of people who want to buy some original illustrations, but I do have to say I have a hard time, saying goodbye to them. So I don't really sell that much because I really want to keep them.
Rocco Staino here in New York City with a Publisher Spotlight exclusive with Sven Volker. Your primary occupation isn't a book illustrator, right?
I wasn't. I didn't start as an illustrator. I really found out very late, and being 40 or something, I did my first book. And it's
40. You're not 40. You're like 35.
This is now my second book, and I'm even 5 years further down the line. No, it's the second book, and to me, this is really where I understood this is what I want to do. I mean, making books for children with a very limited amount of space to tell a story that really. It becomes important to somebody within such a short time span and with such limited, techniques that you can use. Making pictures really work is exciting. That's really what I want to do.
So, A Million Dots. What's this book about?
It's actually it's a book that wants to show how much you can do within the limited amount of space that you have in a picture book, and it's a book about numbers. Yes. It's a counting book, and normally you would say count 1 apple, 2 bananas, and 3 whatever, and then this works differently. It then comes from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16, and it doubles, and each number it doubles, becomes bigger and bigger. So eventually, at the end of the book, you really will have a million dots on the pages.
Welcome back. I'm here with Hanna Otero from, you're the publisher of Lonely Planet Kids.
Yeah.
I get emails all the time from Lonely Planet, and I remember Lonely Planet when I was traveling through Europe and when I was younger. So Lonely Planet Kids, is it the same company?
Yeah, so Lonely Planet has been around for more than 40 years, making guidebooks that people probably had in their backpacks back in the day and still carry around. published all over the world in different languages. And about, I don't know, less than 10 years ago, they decided that they wanted to expand into kids' offerings to help expose kids to all the cultures and places that adults have been exploring for years and years through the company. So now we focus on nonfiction that brings culture and language and travel to kids, kind of giving them the travel experience through books.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have some of those books here to show
Yeah,
us.
I do. Okay, so the first one is called A Place Called Home. And this book is a lift the flap book. It includes all kinds of places that people live all around the world. So you have a New York apartment building, a Maasai hut, a house in Greenland, a riverboat, a houseboat in Amsterdam, an Amazonian home, and a yurt from the Mongolian people. They break their homes down. They're nomads, so they break their homes down and they take them with them everywhere they go. So we have one spread as an example. So this is the Amazonian spread. It'll tell you a little bit about the place and the people that live there. And then each flap, it kind of gives you a little glimpse into the house. So you see here what this man is cooking, a tasty stew of plantains and yams. You see the kinds of animals that live nearby, like sloths and monkeys. You learn about the kinds of foods that people eat, the kinds of things they do to sustain their lifestyle, like fishing and hunting. With the Mongolian people, you learn about the nomadic lifestyle and just the different customs, the different kinds of medicines, all different sorts of things about the different locations as well as the different cultures.
What was the most interesting shelter for you?
So there's a place in Australia called Coober Pedy, which is a mining town. They mine opals there. Australia is very famous for its opals, but it's extremely hot. It's in the desert. So people live underground in homes that they carve out of the dirt. And if they decide they want a new house, a new room in their house, they just dig a new hole, and they do everything underground. They have their restaurants and all their public meeting places underground. So I thought that was super interesting.
And you thought you weren't going to learn anything today. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Now, I have to go to a cocktail party just to use that piece of information.
I always joke that my job is the very best thing for being at cocktail parties, because I have like millions of pieces of useful information that,
Right.
don't pertain to anything except, just...
I thought that is fascinating.
Well, if you like fascinating facts, this next one is a good one too. So this is called Animal Championships. And this book was kind of our ode to the Olympics, which, as we all know, is coming up in just a few months. So this book will be out in June in time for the Olympics. And what we thought would be really interesting is to kind of liken the animal world to the athletic world and pit animals against each other in face-offs of aerial, skill and speed and strength and all kinds of different athletic prowess. So what you get on each spread is one kind of competition. So for example, this is the 100-meter sprint.
Right.
And you have all these animals competing against each other. So if all these animals were doing the 100-meter dash against each other, who would win? We know that this guy the cheetah is very fast, but we also have Usain Bolt, who is the fastest human. And a little piece of information is that he could beat a crocodile, which is probably really good for him. But he wouldn't be able to beat a cheetah, an antelope, or an ostrich, or a monkey. So each spread has the podium that shows you who would be the winner. And sometimes there's a little aside. Like, for example, the mite is actually the fastest for its size. It couldn't go, head to head with the cheetah and win. But if it went against, an ant, it would definitely take first place. And then across the bottom is our little fact cards for each animal competing. So you get to learn a little bit about the ostrich, the monkey, and
Well, this would be a great book for parents to use with their children during the Olympics, because when an event is coming up, you could say, oh, here's the event, and what animal do you think will win this event? So what are some of the other events you have?
So we have like feats of strength, who could lift the most. And so we actually had to divide that into two, because if you took, for example, the black bear, he's very strong.
Right.
But if you look at an ant, pound for pound, or
Ratio,
ounce for
right,
ounce,
right,
he's just as strong, because ants can, of course, lift their own body weight times, many times. So you get all kinds of interesting information like that. And there's funny asides, this little sloth here, he's too slow to compete in the...
So that would be me at the Olympics.
Yes. And the other thing is, we always try to do, in our books, is give you the place where things live, where they come from. So, if you're watching the Olympics, you could also talk about, what country would the cheetah be competing for,
So is this book available right now?
It's out in June. So
in June, right in time for the Olympics.
Exactly, that was our plan.
Great. So remember that. A great interactive way to watch the Olympics is with Animal Championship.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then the last book I wanted to share with you is Lift the Flap Atlas. So this is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a Lift the Flap Atlas that is meant to sort of be a first introduction to places around the world for little kids who are curious. With the advent of Google Maps, you can go on and see all different kinds of countries from an aerial point of view, but you can't always understand exactly what makes them so special or cool. So this book actually has 120 flaps. It's a mixture of portrait and landscape, so according to the size of the continent. And so here's South America, so you can learn about the gauchos who live in Argentina. You can learn about the killer whales that often migrate right off of the coast of Argentina. You can learn about the Amazon. So every continent has a mix of culture, language, animals. We're very big on animals, but also important historical and geographical sites like Victoria Falls, or Angel Falls. Victoria Falls is in Africa. And then each spread has this little kind of test. So you can go through and see, did you find the hidden, the first winners, for example, who were the winners of the very first World Cup in soccer? The answer is Uruguay. So anyway, this is the kind of book that we feel is this, exactly Lonely Planet. It's helping kids learn about the world and hopefully getting them interested, and as an entry point to learning more about Uruguay or Angel Falls or...
One of the Jeopardy champions said that he read children's nonfiction to help prepare. And so when you were doing this, I'm going, well, that's a Jeopardy category right there.
Exactly. That's what we want to do. We want to give kids a taste of places and interesting things that they might want to explore more deeply, either in a picture book or a bigger nonfiction book. So yeah.
Oh, well, that's really interesting. So how many books does Lonely Planet Kids publish? Is it Lonely Planet Kids?
Yeah, Lonely Planet Kids,
publish each season?
We do about 30 a year.
Really?
So we're a very small list, but we're trying to keep it very curated. And again, we focus, every book we publish, we say to ourselves, what makes us a Lonely Planet book? Does it have, does it teach you about a new place? Does it teach you about a new culture? So that's kind of the lens that we look at everything through. But we do all kinds of topics like animals and places, and we have a series of language books.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
So it's Lonely Planet Kids.
That's right. And you can find us online at Lonely Planet Kids if you're interested in seeing what we do.
Yeah, terrific. Well, thanks, Hannah, for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes. Thank you again. So now remember to comment below, and you probably could have those 3 Lonely Planet Kids and our hashtag Pub Spotlight Spring 2020. So you still we have a whole nother half going. We have more books to talk about. And and here is Ellen. Yes.
How did you do that?
You snuck back in.
I know, it's a miracle.
1 minute, we have Hannah. Next, we have Ellen. Yes.
Well, we have so many cool books, and there's so many great nonfiction books out these days, right? And Sakata Books is really bringing the game too. So in the Lonely Planet books, you're traveling around the world.
Right.
In Gut Garden, you're traveling around your biome, your microbiome. Mm-hmm. So the large intestine, so for those of you who don't know, has trillions of occupants. Is everybody grossed out now? Good, good. So those of you who remember Mary Roach's Gulp, this is like that for kids. And remember I told you to remember the name Katie Brosnan.
Yeah, right.
So Katie did Keith Among the Pigeons. Well, Katie is very versatile, and she also did Gut Garden, A Journey into the Wonderful World of Your Microbiome. So let's look at this large intestine, shall we? Because, you know, so much gross stuff there. This is your gut garden. Welcome to the large intestine, crossed out gut garden, width 7 centimeters, length 1.5 meters, population trillions. So there's so many bacteria in this part of the digestive system that there is no space for pathogens to grow. Isn't that good to know? It's such a comfort, isn't it?
Yes.
That if you have all those trillions of things, then you know you don't have pathogens. So that's awesome. I said no room. So this has got so much great information in it, and I think the illustrations just make it really attractive and interesting and fun and vibrant. And this is from Cicada Books, and you also have another Cicada book.
And speaking about going around the world,
Yes.
and yeah, this book takes us around the world via the underground subway systems from around the world, and it focuses on Beijing, China, London, Madrid, Mexico City, Moscow, New York, Paris, Seoul, Sydney, and Tokyo. And you know, I always, being from New York, I was always partial to New York subway system.
No.
Yes, yes, and thinking it was the oldest. It's not the oldest.
It's not.
No. And but you know, going back to one of our other Gus Stefano book.
Yeah.
He did one of the subway stations here in New York City. It's now a closed station. But anyway, this is a fun book because it tells you just about culture too. Like Sydney, I was just speaking to someone that was in Sydney recently, and we were talking about the subway. The subway just opened in 2019 and has 13 stations. And it fits 1,100 passengers in each subway train.
Wow.
Yes, but the fun thing here, it has little find over here, and it has find things like the Sydney Opera House. And so we have a crowded station here, and I'm going, how can we find the Sydney Opera House here? And I'm looking and looking and looking out the windows. I thought maybe it's in the scenery, but I did find it. It is decoration on this young lady's shopping bag, because they can't use plastic there too. So they have, yes. And then the other one was Vegemite. Does anyone know what Vegemite is? Yes, yes, it's from the UK, and so I'm going, okay, where is Vegemite? Is it in someone's sandwich? But I see it's in this person's paper bag right there. Yes, so it's a great way to learn about subways, lots of factoids about subways, and also about culture. Again, here we are in Paris, 1900 it opened, which actually I think was a few years before the New York subway opened. And then the things you have to find here are croissants, macaroons, a beret, baguette. So I am getting hungry. But anyway, so that's underground subway systems around the world.
Coming from Cicada. And our next publisher we're going to talk about is Mrs. Wordsmith. Now, Mrs. Wordsmith is a very new publisher, and they got their start by just helping kids learn ways to use words. So this is a UK-based publisher, distributed here in the US by Simon & Schuster. But the really fun thing about this, well, there's a few fun things, but one of the fun things, if you look at the art, it may seem vaguely reminiscent of Madagascar, of the movie, not the place. So that is because they got a lot of the animators who work on those films to create all the characters that are part of these books. So you know kids are going to love this. They're going to be so into it. This is the Storyteller's Illustrated Dictionary by Mrs. Wordsmith. 1,000 words to take your storytelling to the next level. So in the table of contents, it has things like, you know, character, emotion, setting, all sorts of different ways you can talk about story. And then it also has ways you can pair words together. So since this week is Valentine's Day, I thought, oh yeah, there we go. love and hate words.
Ah.
So here are some different ways you can pair words to express love and hate and all the different emotions that go along with that, all the different kinds of grades, nuances. Infatuated, yearning, scorn, fixated, disgust, loathe. Guess which ones go where? And word pairs. Here are some word pairs. Deep disgust, absolutely loathe, bitter scorn, deep yearning. Word pair after, fixated mind, infatuated fan. So these are just, it's so full of ways to help kids really expand their vocabularies and learn how to tell their stories. And that is Mrs. Wordsmith. You also have something fun.
I have a wordsmith, and teachers who are watching and librarians who are watching, put this down. It is Storyteller's Word a Day. So they, excuse me, they begin in September with a word a day, but I jumped ahead to February, and I went to today, February 12th. Whose birthday is it today?
George Washington.
No,
Abraham Lincoln.
There you go.
Please forgive me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Poor Abe. You know, since we had President's Weekend, we've now, you know, kind of forgot the actual days these people were.
Yeah, 22nd.
Right. Yes. So for today, you can actually stand the book up, and it's putrid. Yes, it's putrid. And so what does putrid? Adjective, rotten and decay, like a very old sandwich. Yes, but then in the back, right here, it has more information about putrid, you know, like some synonyms: rotten, disgusting, decay. The etymology: putrid comes from the Latin word putris, meaning rotten and crumbling. Use it in a sentence or tell a story. Bogart loved putrid food. The more rotten, the better. Yes.
Or
So
you can use it in a comment right now.
and
Yeah.
say yes.
Right below.
That's right. Yeah. So yes. So there it is. And I just love the way it just stands.
Oh,
So you see the word all day. Yes. So speaking of words,
Yes,
my
you've got it.
my next
Yeah.
book also is about words, and it's literally amazing words and where they come from. So let's just
And this is from What on Earth Books.
What on Earth Books, and right here we have mummy, and it tells you how to pronounce mummy. It's excuse me, a Persian word, and its meaning preserve a body, and originally meant wax. And here's one of my favorites, because the next show we're going to be doing this. Karaoke. And karaoke, it tells you how to pronounce it. It's Japanese. English meaning. The English meaning is recorded music made for singing along to, often played by a special machine with a microphone attached. And the original meaning is empty orchestra. Ooh. Yeah, so here is, yes.
Yes.
You learned that today too, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's not putrid.
No.
Oh, sorry. That didn't quite work, did it? No, not really. Anyway, another book from What on Earth Books is Planet SOS. We've talked a lot about the 50th anniversary. We sure would love to make it another 50 years to another Earth Day. And this is about some of the 22 monsters that are destroying our planet and how we can defeat it. So gamification, if you will, of the climate crisis, and this does it in a really clever way. So you have this flap that you can have open as you learn more about each one of the different threats to the planet. So let's look here. This is the acid sea dragon, and over here on the side you can see the mugshot. This is a little gaming card down here. So there's a mugshot, the name, when the monster was discovered. You have the things you can do to defeat the monster, the habitat, and the scientific name, and things that are feeding the monster right now. So you can hold this open and look at all those different things that are destroying. I have to find one of my favorites here because they're just so much fun. Oh, the road snake. I mean, haven't we all been on one of those? Yeah, that's too much asphalt in the world. The Atmos dragon, the noisy bird, and the Smogosaurus. Yes, this is suffocating us right now, even as we speak. So learn their weaknesses so you can defeat them. You will be a hero like Mr. Invincible.
Yes,
All right.
And we're talking about traveling around the world, and Inhabit Media takes us up into the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, none of it. Yeah.
Yes, and this book, Tana's Owl, is based on the author's real-life experience. When a father brings home an abandoned baby owl for his daughter to take care of. And she has to learn to take care of the baby owl, which includes getting up at 4 a.m. to feed the owl.
It's not easy.
It's not easy, and I don't, well, and one of the main foods of owls are lemmings. Yes,
No.
yes,
Are they distinguished?
They're not. These are not very distinguished lemmings, but it's the life cycle, as we say.
Yeah.
Yes, but she does take care of she takes care of the owl, and including putting paper down because they poop all over the place. They do, and then the time comes that she has to leave home, not the owl, but the girl, because she has to leave her village because there's no school in her village. But this the book does show you the various animals there, like the huskies here too. But the owl begins to lose all its gray baby feathers, and it's time for the owl to go off onto the on its own. And the dad, while the girl's at school, does let the owl go free. She's sad, but when she comes home, lo and behold, an owl comes flying towards her, and she hopes it is the same owl. So anyways, very touching story, and it, again, another culture.
Yes.
Yes.
But she learns also that wild animals are not something that you can tame.
Right.
And there are, it's not easy taking care of that wild owl. Now this is in my Ananas Amoitik, and I hope I pronounced that somewhat close to being correctly. And this is about a child and the wonderful comfort and warmth and security of being in the pouch that is in the back of the mother's parka. So this is where Inuit babies are from much of their early lives, and it's just such a beautiful celebration of that space. If you have any interest in that, in my Nana's Amoitik, it feels cozy. The way the material swaddles me feels like being wrapped up in soft clouds. I love snuggling up. I feel calm. Her scent reminds me of flowers and the air. And in the summertime, I love breathing in the smell of my Nana's Amoitik. And you can see all the different senses. It feels peaceful. Her breathing feels like ocean waves gently rolling in and out. I love sleeping in my Nana's Amoitik. So I hope you'll enjoy this beautiful book from Inhabit Media, which is a celebration of Inuit culture, but at the same time is showing things that are really happening in contemporary life. So yes, Inhabit Media.
Yeah, now it's time for Pajama Press.
For Pajama Press.
And do you begin that?
I think I do. Let me
Yes.
begin that with Pajama Press. This is another publisher based in Toronto, and this is Michelle Cotter-Roosman's Music for Tigers. I love this book so much. So this is Michelle's third book. Her last one, The Girl of the Southern Sea, set in Indonesia, is one that was honored by the United States Board on Books for Young People as an Outstanding International Book of the Year. This one follows a girl who is in Toronto, but she goes to visit her uncle during the summer, their summer, deep in Tasmania. And she does not want to go. She wants to stay home and practice her violin because she has an important audition coming up. But instead, she has to go down and stay with her uncle, and it's really far away, and she doesn't know if it's going to be someplace where she can do what she wants to do. But her uncle introduces her gradually to the Tasmanian world around him. The camp where he lives is going to be torn down, it's going to be bulldozed over, and at the same time, she starts to see her grandmother's journal. And she listens to the stories of when her grandmother was playing the piano and it lured the Tasmanian tigers out of the woods. So they're extinct, but are they? I don't know. I will tell you that I got chills several times when I was reading this book, and I bet you will too. So that is Michelle Cotter-Eastman, Music for Tigers.
And from Pajama Press,
Yes.
I have a nonfiction book, and it is The Dog Patrol, Our Canine Companions and the Kids Who Protect Them. So Rob Laidlaw did a great job. I love a book that has a great table of contents, and this one does. And it talks about, the history of dogs, various amazing canines. It talks about doggy digestion, how smart are dogs, dog talk, if you want to speak to your dog.
Yeah.
Then there's the whole section about, so you want a dog. So they talk about puppy mills and dog breeders. Adopting a dog saves a life. And he talks about shelters and pounds. And so there's lots of dog information in here. But along with that, it also features young people who are doing good things for dogs. And so here's one girl, Ava Calise, and who helps in New Jersey with rescue dogs. And so it's things like that. And on the front, it says, amazing gatefold inside.
Well, let
so
me help with
we
that,
all
Rocco.
love amazing gatefolds.
Oh, yeah.
And
There you go.
there we go. Here is, here it is.
Oh, look at
Yes,
him.
and this comes right before. I just want, we talk, what makes a good shelter? And so it gives some information, and then it talks about the various parts of dogs, their teeth, their nails, their muzzle, and then it talks about a dog rescue lifeline. So there's a lot about rescue dogs in this book. So it's a very heartwarming and factual book. Yes.
Yeah, and if your library has a shelter dog program where you read to the dogs in the shelter, what a perfect book this would be to have to back up that program.
Right,
So
yes.
I have another book from Pajama Press, and this is an illustrated chapter book, and it deals with a kind of weighty topic. So Olive's mother has passed away, and her father is so depressed. She says she walks into the kitchen and she sees her father and the elephant beside him. He doesn't really talk to her anymore. He never laughs. And she's got to figure out a way to bring him out of his shell. Now, this does not put the pressure on the child to figure out a way to help their parent out of this, but it does give her some coping strategies and also some ideas. So in this case, Olive, with the help of her grandfather and her best friend, are able to help her father escape from this deep, dark depression and make the elephant go away forever. So that is The Elephant, and I should show you some of the illustrations because I did say it was an illustrated chapter book, but they're subtle and they're sweet, and they have a lot of emotion in them. I love this turtle, turtle. Yes. Anyway, so that is The Elephant. Now,
I have a
You
book
have
from
something
the
fun.
School of Life.
Yes.
We had those field guides earlier, but this is for older children, and it's What Can I Do When I Grow Up? And it is a book about careers, and it kind of explores, again, a good beginning. It talks, how important is money? What do you really enjoy? Why are there so many different jobs? Do you know that the average person will change jobs at least 5 times, and that may also include changing careers. And so this book is an interactive book. It's consumable. You can list what might I like to be when I grow up, and for younger people it might be fun too to have this as a keepsake too for after you grow up, to reflect upon
cool idea.
what you wanted to do when you were 14 or whatever. But it does introduce you to many aspects of work and exposes you to jobs that, again, I've learned so much today with these books. Like right here, we have the rail logistics engineer, MTA and Amtrak. Take note of this. Yeah. If you like order, technology, and being on time, then you might be on the right track. Ha 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 ha. For a career in rail logistics. So what do you do? I deal in rail logistics.
Wow.
Yeah, that's very
That's
impressive.
impressive, yes.
That is impressive. So it's, what can I do when I grow up? Yes.
So very cool. And something a lot of kids want to do when they grow up is be an artist for manga or anime. So our next title is from Udon. And Udon is a publisher that is based in Toronto as well as Hong Kong. And they are bringing, of course, a Japanese style manga that was about a French aristocracy during the French Revolution. So how many countries that was a lot. Anyway, it's a multinational project called The Rose of Versailles. It was first created in 1979, and it is legendary among manga aficionados. And we're so excited that it's finally going to be available here, and they've even colorized some of it. So this is a tale of the French Revolution about a young woman who is brought up as a boy by her father to be to lead Marie Antoinette's personal guard. That doesn't end well. Yeah, you all know how that story, yeah, okay. If you don't, study up in your history and just enjoy The Rose of Versailles. So it should be coming out pretty soon from Udon in just a few months, and it is gorgeous. So you have something from Udon, Manga Classics.
Manga Classics.
Yeah.
And it's Anne of Green Gables. Now, we're all familiar with Anne of Green Gables, but this is the manga version of it. And the interesting thing about this book is that in the beginning, it gives you instructions on how to read manga, and which is from back to front and from right to left.
Yeah.
Right, yes. And it is, it does tell us the classic story. And if I understand correctly, it is the only authorized
graphic
novel from the trust of the Montgomery
Estate.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ella Montgomery's estate blessed this.
So
yeah, that's
there
pretty
you
nice.
go. So
and it is beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. So that's coming out pretty soon.
Yes,
In
well,
a
that's
couple months from
exciting.
Manga
Yes.
Classics. And they're the same ones that did Pride and Prejudice, Les Miserables, The Count of Monte Cristo was a personal favorite. Several of the plays, Shakespeare's plays.
This is off. Emma, is that one?
They did Emma,
Well,
yeah.
you know that
Yeah.
there's a movie
Yes.
coming out,
Yes.
Emma. So this is the perfect tie-in.
If your appetite for Emma is not sated by the movie,
Yes.
then definitely check out the Emma Manga Classic. So yes, that is super, super darn fun.
That was a curveball.
That was a curveball, but it's all right. It's all good. Okay, and
Yes.
next up, we have Relics of Youth, which is from Vault Comics. And this is for a teen audience. So Nat is a teen, and she gets this mysterious tattoo on her arm, and she doesn't understand it, but she's smart and savvy and knows her technology, and she finds that there are other people around her age, around the country, who also have this really mysterious triangular tattoo showing up on their skin. And she's having these dreams and visions of this island. So she goes and finds them all and brings them together, recruits them to go together to explore and find this island. Now, this is off the coast of Miami, going into the Caribbean. Anyone want to guess where they're headed? Straight into the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, bum,
Yes.
bum, bum.
Yes. So they go to this island in the Bermuda Triangle, and it's a little bit like Lost, but no polar bears. But it's just it's kind of a survival in a way, but it's just a very mysterious, not dystopian, but at the same time, lots of adventure, and a really disparate group of kids come together, young people come together to do this. So it's a diverse cast of characters. Each one has their strengths, and you can see them kind of pair up and split apart and pair up again, and so it's all about the relationships as well. So that's Relics of Youth, and that is from Vault Comics. And then I think next up on our list is Sarah and the Royal Stars. So you may notice this is actually a little floppy. And that's because this is a comic book. So you may not know that a lot of graphic novels started life as these. And Sarah and the Sea Stars is a bind-up of the first story arc from this series. And Sarah is a princess of Parsa, and her country is going through a civil war. Her father's brother is trying to defeat them, and at the same time, they've got them on the run. But Sarah has this moment where she blacks out while she's on the battlefield, and she's rescued and taken back home. And it turns out that she's been having these visions. And in this particular vision, she meets this being called Mitra, who tells her that she's been chosen for a quest. So Mitra tells her father about this because he says, "You've been having a lot of these blackout spells lately." And he says, "Your mother had these too." And she discovers that it is her duty to rescue the fallen stars, to find them in the land and restore them to their rightful place. Not an easy task. We'll find out if Sarah and her cohorts are up to the task. So that is Sarah and the Royal Stars from Vault. And I think you've got something from Image Comics.
Image, and speaking of stars, we
a lot of stars.
We had a Wave of Stars, and she has to find the stars, and this is Sea of Stars, and it's about a young boy named Caden who has to go on a road trip with his space trucker father, who is hauling space cargo through the galaxies. And
space trucker would be a really good career, wouldn't
it? Yes, I have to check that. Space trucker, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And so Caden, of course, is like bored, being on this trip, and in through the galaxy, etc. Until they are the truck. He goes into the back of the truck, and while he's in the back of the truck, a space leviathan, bites it and splits it in half. And so Caden is off losing oxygen, and his father is now worried about his son and trying to save his son. But Caden's also helped by some talking space monkeys and he's riding a space dolphin.
Yeah.
And so this boring trip turns into a very exciting trip for this kid. Yes.
It does.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm so excited I get to tell you about La Voz de Mayo, Tata Rambo. So if you're looking for own voices, graphic nonfiction, this is a perfect book for you. So this is the true story of Tata Rambo, who was a soldier during World War II and went back to his home, which is near Tucson, Arizona, and he became an activist. So his name is Ramon Jaurigue, and this is a story told by his great-grandson. And he co-founded the Mexican-American Yaqui organization, which is a tribe that is in the Tucson area, and he worked with the local community to help them become truly part of the larger community and not be disenfranchised. So basically they were able to, it was a program called Model Cities Program, where they were able to acquire property and get jobs and really thrive in this community. So this is his story, and it also has a lot of really good solid information in the beginning, so about graphic reclamations and the reclaiming of their stories. So this is an important story. It still is a really compelling graphic novel, his life story, but it also has a lot of great information that people can really learn from and be inspired by. And then, of course, there's a lot of nonfiction backup information about Ramon and Tata Rambo and his family. So this is from Image Comics. And something to remember about Image is when these books come out, these are the passion projects for these creators. These are the stories they've had burning inside them. So when they come out, you know that it's going to be something that is deeply felt.
The publisher is owned by the creators, right?
The books, it's creator owned. So the publisher enables the creators to bring their stories forth. So a lot of times you'll see Image will have people who are famous for writing, arcs at some of the Capes and Tights publishers, but they'll be here with their own stories and their own things they want to tell. So Image is the home of Walking Dead. So yeah. There you go. So this is La Voz de Mayo Tatarambo. Okay.
So, Lantana.
Yeah,
Yes,
Lantana.
speaking of going around the world, now Lantana is based in
The UK.
In the UK.
In Oxford, and also in the Philippines and Wellington. Another company has people all over.
And so, and Boundless Sky, actually, speaking of the UK, follows a migration journey of a bird. And I earlier, was looking at the route in the back, but we see they start in the northern part of the UK and travel down through Africa, and so it's kind of interesting to watch the bird's journey from the UK as it travels and gets caught in a fisherman's net, and continues to fly over the UK and then through beautiful places like
France,
this.
Spain,
Yes, right.
yeah.
And then it goes through the desert, the African desert, and here we see them in the African desert. And the amazing thing is that after they fly all the way down there, it turns around eventually.
And does it?
Again, and flies back. So, yes. So that is The Boundless Sky
Yeah.
by Lantana. Yes.
So it makes migrations real.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, because, we hear about them. And another book I have from Lantana, this cover just makes me happy. This is a story of Afia, and I love the roses in her cheeks. So this takes a James Barrie poem. He's a Jamaican poet who passed away not too long ago. And her dress, which is a canvas for all the things that are around her. So it's a celebration of her imagination, but also the beauty. And I love good end papers. Isn't that gorgeous? Good end papers, man. Life is good. So Afia has fine black skin that shows off her white clothes and big brown eyes that laugh and long limbs that play. So, and this is how she washes it every night, because each day, I love the sunflowers around her face. The dress takes on the things around her. So there you see with all the beautiful roses around her, red roses, clustered bunches, and the butterflies. And this is just a gorgeous celebration told, of course, we hope that the tiger didn't eat her, but it's imagination, right? And then in the end, Afia is amazed, just like when she comes home and finds herself covered with wind-swept leaves of October falling as her dress is washed and prepared again for another day. And again, good end papers, right? So that is a story about Afia from Lantana Press, which brings people together from different cultures to create these exquisite picture books. So check out the list. Now we have one other surprise.
I like surprises.
Yes, we do. So audiobooks, right?
Oh, great.
Audiobooks are having a moment or a year or a decade or something. We already talked about the Audis that are coming up, the celebration of audiobooks. This is The Magic of Letters by Tony Johnston with illustrations by Wendell Miner, but this one has narration by Mark Thompson and Tavia Gilbert. So this is just an exquisite audiobook that is created by Live Oak Media, who I think of as the Tiffany of audiobook producers. Every year they seem to be honored by the Odyssey, including this year. So there you go. So let's hear a little snippet of this, and then we'll come back to say goodbye. So.
Letters hold magic. When you know their secrets, they open worlds. Each letter has a name, wonderful and strange. A, B, C.
Well, that was terrific. Yes, you have to give me a copy of that. I'd like to listen to that.
It can be arranged.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, thank you. And Ellen, thank you so much for bringing these 50 books from 20 publishers here today. And some lucky person, could be you still have time to comment about any one of the titles or about how great Ellen and I did in presenting these books.
Or you could say it was putrid.
Yeah,
I mean,
or
you know,
putrid,
yeah.
yes. The word of the day,
Yeah,
putrid, yes. And so until next time, yes, pick up a book.
Bye.
Bye.